Well, hello there, fellow YouTubers. It is Caitlin, and today we're going to be talking about 1850s parasols. So I have a personal collection of about 50 original parasols from 1830 to 1885, and 16 of those are from the 1850s, and so we're going to take a look at each of those today. Let's first talk about the 1850s fashion in general. So in 1856, we have our hoop skirt, the grand cage crinoline come out, which was a blessing because before then we are achieving the same hoop, but we are doing it with multitudes of petticoats. And so the hoop skirt was quite a marvelous invention, kind of the same idea of a farthingale or a panniers from the earlier time periods. And so quite full skirts just make your waist look small by comparison. It doesn't matter if you have a small waist, if your hips are this large, it just makes it look small by comparison. We are looking at jewel necklines for day wear, which means the neckline will go all the way to your throat. Dropped arm size, which means your shoulder seam is going to be a little bit dropped down here, just a little bit further than we see it today. And you're going to have large sleeves, usually quite full at the elbow because that also makes your waist look small by comparison. They can be open or closed sleeves. If they are open, sometimes you'll see with closed undersleeves, and other times you'll see them with lacy open undersleeves. Kind of just depends on your style of sleeves that you're using. Hair in the 1850s, clearly I do not have my 1850s hair on today. It would usually be parted down the center, and you're going to use what are called wraps, or basically just bits of your hair that you pulled off a brush and you stuff them into kind of like a hairnet, and then you shape it, and it'll make your hair quite full at the sides, and you're putting your bun kind of lower in the back, maybe where my lower bun is today. So 1830s buns are up here, then we have more 1840s, 1850s, and 1860s are quite down at the nape of your neck. Basically, if it doesn't feel like it's falling off, it's not low enough for the 1860s. So we're in the 1850s today. So basically, if you're out walking and you need a parasol, you got to think about what coverage is really needed. So in the 1850s, because I'm covered head to toe, really all I need to shade is my face. So my bonnet here, this is one of my bonnets. This is I actually made this myself from a pattern from Timely Tresses, Danielle Perry. Over at Timely Tresses, I used one of their patterns. This is the first bonnet I've made that turned out halfway decent. So I'm quite thrilled with this. This is, I'll have to go look back and look at the pattern, but I think it's their Eliza Coretta, and I think it's 1856, 1857 is the shape I chose. So like right when the hoop came out. This is one of my favorite bonnets, and of course it has my peacock feathers on it. I use a lot of peacock feathers in my 1850s and 1860s accessories especially, and I use those colors a lot. I am a particular fan of the colors. Clearly I have a peacock themed sewing room. The colors in my house really are brown and green and blue, so it kind of fits. And then also the character I portray when I do living history, I do in character first person interpretation quite a bit. And the character I portrayed, her name was Mary Henrietta Gross. They called her Nettie. Nettie grew up on a plantation that raised peafowl, and so we do have records of, I think her brother mentions later on in his memoirs using them for fans, and I'm just assuming they have multitudes of peacock feathers everywhere, so I use them wherever I can. These are actually from, so their first plantation was called Bernardo, and their second one is Leando, which is still around today. All their other plantations are gone, but Leando is still standing. It is privately owned. I am a docent there, and they still raise peafowl there. And so these are actually Leando peacock feathers on my bonnet. So they are from her plantation, peafowl from her plantation, where they would have been over 150 years ago, which is awesome, kind of cool living history nerd moment. I actually have real Leando peacock feathers on my bonnet to be Nettie. That was very much of a rabbit hole to going down, but let's come back. So yes, lovely peacock feathers. So when I put this on, and it's not going to fit correctly because I do not have my 1850s hair, but essentially you can see it covers the base of my neck, and if I had my blouse going all the way up here, or my bodice going all the way up here, I wouldn't have any skin showing there, but you can still see my face there. And so it doesn't cover the face. The bonnets in the 1850s are quite small because all you need to cover is this. And why carry a giant monstrosity of a parasol if all you need to cover is right here? So parasols are quite small during this time period. If you look for them online, they are often being sold as child's parasols or children's parasols. They are not. They are actually full-size adult parasols. They just look small to us, because when we think parasol, we do think umbrella-size giant monstrosity, which was a thing in the 1830s, and then they gradually got smaller and smaller through the 1840s and 1850s, and they get very, very small in the 1860s, and they start going wide again until you get to the 1880s, and they are quite large again. Let's look at some parasols. So the first one I have today is right around the year 1850, maybe a little earlier. She could be late 1840s, and I'm going to open her all the way. This is her original cover, and I almost never open my original covers all the way because they will split. This one has split so much by the time I got her, it's not hurting her whatsoever. So this is what we're just going to open her all the way. She does have one broken rib. You can kind of see where it pushes up right here. But let's just look at that fabric. Let me push it over here, see if y'all can see that. So it is brown, but there's beautiful, I guess, woven in is this beautiful plaid of blue and green and black and red. And it's just absolutely beautiful. I wish we could find fabric like that today. It is just gorgeous. Oh, here's a good spot right where the broken rib is, where you can really see the fabric. Yes, and so she will probably never get recovered under me because, first of all, I can't find fabric anywhere near like this, so that's already out. But also because she's a broken rib and I have not tried repairing ribs yet. I am very poor at recovering them, even with just the recovering the fabric. So she's probably gonna stay all original, which I do try to lean towards preservation of the parasols as opposed to restoration. The only ones I do recover are the ones that are in extremely poor condition, where the covers are just either not there. I don't mind recovering parasols that are not there, or they just don't have a cover at all by the time they come to me, or the ones that are so shredded that, you know, I'll recover those. I don't tend to recover them just for the sake of recovering them. I recover them because I know that I'm going to have an event this year. I don't have a parasol for this year, and I need something that's going to, or I have one but it doesn't go with the dress I'm going to wear, that sort of thing. So yes, this one will probably stay all original under my care. She does have fringe. It's beautiful silk fringe there, olive brown, and she has some by her finial as well. Her finial is absolutely gorgeous. Actually, the reason I purchased her is because of her gorgeous finial, and they do kind of pop off, so I can probably show y'all just like that. So it's a leaf on it, very, very pretty, and it just pops on right back. Her handle here is, or her stick or her shaft is painted wood, so it's painted white. It's made to look like bone, but it is not bone, it is painted wood. And then her handle here is bone, and it's very beautifully carved bone. And then she has a little metal sleeve here. And it's basically, this is a folding parasol, so all the parasols I have in my 1850s collection are folding parasols. They're carriage parasols, so they're very, very convenient. So if you're out walking and I don't want to hold my parasol, I can stick it right here and have use of both my arms. I've also been known to make my pockets in my dresses large enough to fit these things. And so I just shove them in. Okay, I shouldn't say that. These are originals. We're going to gently place them into our pockets to carry them around. But yes, so they are all carriage parasols. And so you'll see these little metal sleeves a lot. I believe the period trade term for this is called a fit up, F-I-T-U-P. But I'll have to look at that again just to make sure. I have that in a book somewhere. I just have to buy the book. It's in a pile of other books. But we'll be seeing lots of little brass sleeves here. And that is essentially her. Not much else to say about it. But yes, that's our first parasol. Our next one, let's see. This one I have recovered. She came to me with absolutely no cover. This one I got in a lot of 4 parasols, all from England, and these are English parasols. This one is. And I recovered her, and I didn't do a terrible job with her, but I mean, obviously it could be better on this side. Yeah, most definitely. Right there definitely needs some work. She came to me with no finials. In fact, out of the 4 parasols I got in this collection, only one of them has a finial. And that was also the one with the finial was the only one that actually had a cover as well. So the others came to me uncovered. This one I did cover, and she's quite large for an 1850s parasol. I'm wondering if she really is more 1840s. I have a hard time dating them without the finials. The finials really do tell me a lot, and so because she has no finial, I really don't know. She's definitely bigger than any of the other parasols that came with the collection, and she's even larger than this one, so it may be late 1840s, early 1850s. She is lined. I did line her, so the other one was not lined. Linings, they kind of start showing up in the, I think the earliest I've seen them, which granted I haven't been researching for more than 2 or 3 years, so don't take this with a grain of salt, but the earliest I've seen them are early 1840s when you see linings. And usually at that point in time, it's the most expensive parasols are being lined and the cheaper parasols are not. And then they get, slowly you start seeing more and more parasols that are lined, and by 1860, almost the vast majority, let's say the vast majority of parasols are being lined. Let's put it that way. And so I did choose to line her. Probably would have been just as correct not to. I did choose her to recover her in black because I found some bits of fiber and some string, like thread, and then some bits of fabric, silk, on her ribs in various places that were all black. So, little history speaking to us there, telling you what to recover her in. Her handle, very typical of an English style 1850s parasol, carved wood, or really turned wood. This one's quite dark. The other ones I have one other that's dark, and the rest of my English parasols are very, very light colored. We're going to get towards them towards the end. Okay, my next one, I have recovered her as well. This is my one functional 1850s parasol that I use a lot for my earlier 1850s stuff, although I am currently recovering another one to use. So this is her, and I actually did a pretty decent job recovering her. She's not bad. There's a little rippling up here, but really, I did a pretty good job on this one. Maybe I'm learning. Maybe this is getting easier. Let's see what to talk about her. So she has a long finial as well. Finials tend to be long in the 1840s, and they get kind of shorter in the, this is probably 3-inch long. The other one was probably, the first one we saw was probably about 4 inches. This one's about 3 inches long. They get gradually shorter, and then 1855 they kind of get kind of short, and they kind of stay short for a while. Then they get long again in the 1860s. But her fabric I recovered her in is a shot silk. So essentially, you'll hear that also as changeable or iridescent. Basically, it means when you put the fabric on the loom, you put you put one color on the loom and you weave with another color. And so, depending on where the light hits, you get different colors. So this one is gold and blue. So depending on where you hit the light, you'll see gold in some places and blue in others. Which I really wasn't a fan of. I would have preferred to have her all blue with just the stripes, but I couldn't find fabric like that. So this is what she got recovered in. I'm okay with it because I have one other parasol in my collection that has a shot silk cover, so and I've seen pictures of at least 2 others. So I'm okay with the fact that she has a shot silk cover. It just wasn't my preference. One thing I don't like about how I recovered her is that on the edges I had to hem her. So basically for early parasols, they would have cut this on the selvage. And so you don't have to hem it. It's already finished for you, and that's ideal. I didn't buy enough fabric. I could only get 7 panels of the 8 that I needed. And so, yeah, so I had to hem her, which I'm not a fan of. But I did such a good job recovering her, I don't think I'll ever change it out. But, you know, we'll see. Her handle is carved to look like bamboo. It's either ebony wood or it's painted to look like ebony wood. It has a little bone bit at the end. Her sleeve here is painted to black to match this. And actually it is painted, it's not ebony wood because there are some paint scratches off that I've not noticed before. Yes, interesting. Her ribs are actually baleen, not cane. And so the other ones that we saw so far have been cane. These are baleen, and there's really, you have to kind of know the difference. I can tell by looking at them. I can't tell by feeling them. So I can tell metal ribs from cane or baleen because they feel different. Cane and baleen are square ribs. You can feel they're definitely square and they're thicker, and metal ribs are kind of round and very thin. And so earliest on, you really see mostly cane and baleen ribs predominate, and then by 1860 you see the majority of them being metal. So this over the decade you kind of see that gradual change. In fact, all of mine except for 2 of them have cane or baleen ribs. I have 2 that are closer to 1860 that are metal ribbed. Let's see. Oh, this little piece. So this piece has a lovely little bone ring, and it's attached by a silk ribbon, and it's basically just to hold the parasol shut. So these, you see it a lot in the 1830s, and you see them in the 1840s quite a bit. And they're kind of out by the 1850s. The latest I have seen one, there's an advertisement, or actually it's really a fashion plate, a Godey's Ladies book. I think it was 1855, and I want to say it was August or April. I think it was an A month. And I saw it had this one in. That is the latest I have seen these to hold parasols shut. Usually they're earlier. So this was probably 1850 to 1854, just based on her, probably, you know, around that, based on her finial and all that sort of thing, and then her lovely little thing here. One thing about her is, a lot of times, let's see, how do I put this? So when I purchased her, the seller told me she was broken because she wiggles. Now, because I know parasols, I know she wasn't broken. What she is she's a marquise parasol. The marquise simply is, it is this. That's all the marquise is. Basically, like there's a folding mechanism right here, there's another folding mechanism up here. And essentially that is so that if the sun is setting, you don't have to hold your parasol like this, which is not as elegant as holding it regularly and just having the lovely sun coverage that comes this way. And so, yes, she is a marquise parasol. I don't know if that's going to really show up on the video, but this little brass bit's in there and it just folds. And so marquise go in and out of fashion. So the first one I have seen was an advertisement, actually it was a fashion plate as well, from 1798. That is the earliest I've seen a marquise. They were quite popular in the early 19th century. Kind of came back, and you know, they went in and out of fashion, and they were in fashion in the early 1850s, and they kind of go away for a little bit, and then they come back in the 1860s. And so a lot of my 1860s parasols are marquise. But yeah, that's essentially her. All I can really talk about her. Oh yes, I do have her original cover here. So her original cover is a cotton plaid. I really don't know if it's her original cover. It's the cover she came to me with. So let's put it that way. It's the cover I got her in. And I do know cotton parasols existed. I've seen an advertisement. This was a newspaper advertisement. From the 1840s, it was advertised in Houston, Texas. I'm from Texas, and I do all my living history in Texas, so that tends to be where my research focuses. And it did advertise for cotton parasols. So I know they existed. I just don't know if this was her original cover, because I see baleen, and baleen to me is a more expensive than cane. At least that's my impression, because I see a lot of cheaper parasols in cane than I do in baleen, so I don't know if she would have really had the cotton cover. So, but yes, that is the cover she came to me with. And I chose blue and kind of that creamish gold color to kind of, just in case that was her original cover. So when I do recover them, I do try to recover them as closely as possible. I just know that because I portray the 1% of society that is like extreme upper crust, I'm above it. I'm above the cotton parasol. Let's just put it that way. And so I knew I had to recover her to silk just to be able to use her. But I do keep all the original covers when I do recover them. So yes, that way at least we have it. And even if it wasn't her original cover, it is part of her history, and therefore deserves to be saved and preserved in that way. All right, the next one. This one I am currently recovering. Let me put all this together. I'm actually going to use her on Saturday. And let's just see how bad I am at recovering, because this one will show you how bad I am at recovering. There we go. Yeah, see all that rippling? Yeah, that's not good. That's not what you want. This part looks pretty decent. And then there's that. That's bad. But I'm learning, okay? It's a learning process. I'm getting through it somehow. But yes, this is her recovered. She did not have fringe originally, so this was her original cover. It's just plain brown silk. And this is the exception. This is a very, well, aside from these are my only two parasols. I did not go with what was given to me. I really don't think this one was originally covered in cotton, so that's why I chose her in silk. This one I chose to put fringe on her because I do portray that one person in society, and plain brown parasol, I don't think I would be using. So I did add some fringe to make it a little fancier, and it's easy to pick off if ever I wanted to bring her back to what she was. So not a big deal. Her finial is broken. The vast majority of my favorite parasols have broken or missing finials because they are bone and they are carved, and they get some really thin bits that tend to, they break off, which is it's very typical. Like that's to be expected when you get something really old and really long and very thin and fragile. It tends to break. But yes, she's also a marquise up here, and then she has a very fancy brass sleeve here, a bone handle, and a little bit of vegetable ivory at the very end. Her handle broke on her way over to me in 3 different places, and so I had to glue it back together, which I've never done before. And there's got to be a better way than what I did, because I didn't do it very well. You can kind of see where it kind of pushes up right here. So maybe one day I'll fix her for real. I don't know. I tried though. It was a learning process. Now her ribs are baleen. Hers are definitely baleen, just like this one. And her ribs are interesting because usually when parasols are fitted with their covers, let me pull one that's not. Here, oh gosh. Let's pull this one real quick. I don't know if y'all actually be able to see this on the video, but we're going to try. So usually at the end of ribs, there's a little hole inside them, and that's where you put the fabric, and you just sew it through. And that's one way of doing it. The other way of doing it is, this one actually doesn't. So these don't have any holes, but you put a little rib tip on there, which is usually bone. Sometimes you see them in other materials, and that would have a hole in it. So you stick them on there, that would have a hole, and you would sew the cover on. This brown one, I've never seen before, and I thought it was very interesting. They had little sleeves, I guess that's what you call it, and they were whipped into the seams here, and you just slide the bones in there, and it just holds it like a little sleeve. And I thought that was very interesting. I've never seen that before, and I chose to do it that way because that's what the original cover was, and I thought that was interesting. So that's her. When I do use her, I'll probably take this broken finial off and replace it with this finial, because this finial is complete, and because she has leaves here, and this one has a leaf on it, I think they would go together very well. But yes, I will probably use her on Saturday, because I'm going to go for the 1854, 1855. Probably maybe I don't know if I'm going to go with a hoop or not. I know what dress I'm wearing, but it's right on that cusp of 1855 to 1856. So I can wear it without a hoop or with a hoop, depending on what I want to do. So if I go without a hoop, I'll probably use her. That also depends on me actually lining her, because her original cover was lined, and I have the lining cut out. I just haven't put it on her yet. So that is something I need to do. This little tiny thing is, let's see, how many broken? She only has 2 broken ribs. No, she has 3 broken ribs. Okay, so she has 5 ribs complete. That's not terrible. And she's a marquise as well. You kind of see how sad she is, but she is wiggly. They wiggle. They are marquise generally. And I bought her because of her pretty patterned cover. And her ribs are baleen as well, which is something I've never noticed, except I looked right here and I'm like, those are baleen. That is interesting. Yeah. And then she has this lovely little silk fringe kind of going around. It's very, very narrow. And I don't know if this is actually a child's parasol or not. I have 3 of them that are this size that are extremely small, even by 1850 standards. So I really don't know, but I could probably use her, but she would look really nice with a child as well. So I don't know. One day I'm going to learn how to redo ribs. That's a skill I need to learn, and then I shall recover her. But she's a marquise, and she has her lovely broken finial, like the majority of my collection, and wood handle with a lovely little bone bit at the end. And that's her. Now I'm just saying, oh yes. So we talked about ways to close parasols, because the other one used a bone ring. This one is what's generally used in the 1850s. It has this little brass bit at right here on the cover, and I call them hooks. I'm sure there's an actual technical term for that. I just call them a hook. So usually you would have a bit of elastic coming out, and you could wrap it around, kind of like we do with umbrellas today, where we have the Velcro. It works very similar, and there would either be a tassel or a bit of bone at the end to catch that little bit, and then it would hold the parasol closed. I have several of them. This one would have had it. This one, oh, I didn't mention that. This one kind of has a similar thing. Let's see if I can open her up. She has a little piece, it's like a rosette made of the fabric. And I assume that's the same thing. So it's not on all the panels. It's the only panel that has one. I assume it would have had a bit of elastic, and you would just wrap the elastic around. More things to research. So this one did not have a brass hook, I don't think. I have the rest of her cover. I need to go look through it again just to make sure that we're not missing something. Because that's something I would probably do, is miss that. This one was the first non-metal ribbed parasol I purchased. So it's the third parasol I purchased. And she has a broken rib. And I actually purchased her because the seller said, oh, I have extra ribs that I'm going to include so you can fix her. Well, they included metal ribs. And these are not metal, these are cane. And that just doesn't work. You have to kind of replace it with the same thing. So she has not been replaced, but I have a ton of extra, well, not a ton, I have like 6 extra metal ribs. So if I ever come across a broken metal rib parasol, I can fix it. But yeah, this one I can't fix yet. She's a vegetable ivory finial, which I assume is missing part of it. I think it would have been a little round bead. It would have had a hole through it, and you would put a a bone ring, very much like this thing, through it, and you could hold the parasol that way. Her stick is painted wood, and she has this lovely bone handle that has grapes on it and like flower and leaf designs. It's quite pretty. About the same size as the last parasol we saw. And then the next one is, she's so sad. I think she has 2 good ribs. No, she has 3 good ribs. Hey, look at that, she has 3 good ribs. I thought she only had 2. She's very, very sad, and she's around the same size as the other 2. Little hook at the end. Her ribs are cane. Yeah, one day I'm going to fix these, because I think it's very sad that they're like this. Her middle sleeve is painted black to match her wood handle. Yeah, one day I will fix these. I will learn how to fix these. This one was very interesting because her finial, to me, looks like it's broken. Very, very clearly broken. But it looks to me like it would have, like a more 1840s finial. But her cover that she came with, and I have no idea why I recovered her, or why I took her cover off, because usually I don't do that until I'm ready to recover them, but I did. Her cover's sad too. So I pry it from the handle here. Yeah, very sad. But her cover has ruffles on it, which is very unusual because I have not come across any 1850s parasols with ruffles on them. They're either left plain or they're fringed, and the ruffles don't come in until 1860. So it was very interesting to me to see what looked like a long 1840s finial with a ruffled cover. And this one, it has, so her cover is black, and then she had a little white ruffle and then a black ruffle put over it. So you kind of just see just a little bit of the white, especially on the other side, on the underside. My goodness, I can't speak today. So I don't know what's going on with her and what that entails or what that means. Whether she was an 1840s parasol and then someone decided to update her by putting on a new cover. Hey, look, there's actually bits of, there's some of her missing ribs are still attached to her cover. Or if possibly, sorry, went on that distracted me. Or if possibly this is not her original finial, and it really is more of a later 1850s, early 1860s parasol. Anyway, more to ponder. I really don't know. Or perhaps I'm missing a whole subset of ruffled 1850s parasols. That's possible too. Let me move the bonnet and move on to the next parasol. Ah yes, this is lovely. So this one I have recovered as well. She came to me, her cover was basically this. it looked like this. And so I did recover her. She's what I use a lot for mid-1850s. She's a pink cover. Her original cover wasn't quite pink. It's more, a little bit more gold-ish than what I got. But I live in Texas where there is no silk being sold. I have to order online. Well, I'm sure you can find it somewhere, but I live in a place, I could probably drive 5 hours in either direction and not come across any silk. Because even our Joann's, that's about an hour away, which is the closest fabric store to me. Even they don't sell silk anymore. They don't even have the Dubioni anymore. So, yeah. I have to order online, and sometimes the colors I get are not quite what I thought they were going to be. But in this case, I think it worked really well. I like the fact that she's pink. She's completely missing her finial as I get that into view of the camera. And there's not even like a little bit for me to actually hang it on, so I really don't know what to do about that. It's just going to have to be the way it is. Not a terrible recovery job. It definitely could be better, but it's not awful. And she is lined. Her original cover had the little scallops at the end. So I put that way y'all can see it. And so I did the same thing on her recovery job. And this is her original fringe, so I just took it off and washed it very gently, very, very, very gently, and then put it back on. And then her handle is bone, kind of simply carved, but it's very pretty. And then let's see, yeah, she's a marquise as well. But this whole part is bone as well, and then she is a marquise. So I can hold her like this. And her ribs, I want to say were baleen, if I remember correctly. It's been a while since I looked at her because, yeah, it's been a while since I recovered her. But I'm pretty sure they were baleen. But that was her. The next one, this is one of the English parasols that came in that lot with the black one. This one is the one with the cover, and she's broken. She came to me this way. I did not do this. What is she catching on? Give me a second while I figure out what she's catching on. Oh, there we go. But yeah, I left her original cover on her. Even though it's pretty sad looking. It's not terrible, and I like to have a couple, there's no reason for me to recover her. I have several 1850s English parasols that had no cover, so there's no reason for me to recover her. Her cover is very, very, very dark green, and then her fringe is two-tone, so some of it's black and some of it is very dark green. Her finial is vegetable ivory with a little bone bead on top, and it's just missing its ring. Her handle is quite pretty, the most intricately carved of my English parasol examples, and her little metal sleeve is quite pretty as well. And she is lined in white, and I was looking at her earlier, and I really do think her ribs are baleen. They look baleen to me. I have to really look at them closely to tell whether they are really or not, and I'm not doing that because she's staying the way she is. But just from what I'm seeing here, they look like baleen to me, which all my other ones are cane, so, except for my two that are metal. And then she also has her little hook on that would hold her together, and that one's easier to see because it's such a contrast to the fabric. But yes. She's going to stay like this, but that just irritates me a little bit that she's broken like that. But, I'm not using her, so it's okay. It is okay. Next one, ooh, this is my favorite parasol. Yeah, it's my favorite parasol. Well, yeah, it is. I have a couple favorites, but this one is my little French lady. Getting her open can kind of be a little bit of a chore sometimes. She's a little finicky. This is her original cover, and you can see it's completely immaculate. There is not a rip or a tear or a stain on her. Beautiful, beautiful electric blue silk moire that I wish we could get nowadays because I would have a gown of this. Unfortunately, this does not exist. The closest I have found is like a teal blue, and it was $90 a yard, so I'm not going to be able to afford that anytime soon. But she has this beautiful silk fringe. It's the same color as her fabric, which has a little, you know, woven design on top of that. Her finial, and she has her little hook. This is all bone, or sorry, not bone. This is all horn, I believe. And so, yeah, you just hold her like this. Let's see, her inside here is actually very, very nice as well. There's a little bit of wear right here, but that's when you like open it and you're like putting your hands there. That's why there's wear there. So I have to be very careful to only touch the little metal bit here and not her fabric when I open her. Her handle is looks kind of like it's carved to look like bamboo or sugar cane, and it is rosewood. And actually, her middle sleeve here is painted to look like the rosewood as well, so it matches perfectly, as does the little metal bit up here. And I did not know this for the longest time, but a couple days ago I was out just kind of going through the Parasol collection because I had actually just recently come back from the Texas Living History Association conference in the end of January, and I gave a parasol talk, so I brought all my parasols out, and we had a nice little chat about dating parasols, and got to look at my collection, and I was actually putting them away from the talk a couple weeks ago, because I'm really bad at, it was March 1st, and I just managed to put them all away a couple weeks ago. But I was playing with her, and she's a marquise because she wiggles, and I didn't know that, so that was kind of fun to find out. But yes, she's one of my favorites. And then this one is probably my second favorite parasol. This is the one that whenever I bring my parasols to places, this is the one people go, oh, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, she's mine. So this is all tatted lace on her. Absolutely gorgeous. Now I will say I'm not a tatter. I'm a horrific tatter. Horrific tatter. And so I can knit, I can crochet, I can sew, I can do embroidery, I can needlepoint. I can't tat. And that's not for lack of trying. I've had multitudes of people try to teach me, including one lady who said she has never failed to teach anybody tatting before, and yeah, I still can't tat. So apparently there's just some blockage up here, I can't figure it out. But if you do tat, if you like to reproduce this, I will say you can't go get crochet cotton because this is incredibly fine thread. So, I mean, I've seen sewing thread thicker than what this is. This is a very fine, very, very, very fine. And her cover is black and her lining is white. Beautiful bone handle. Her up here is not even painted, it's just wood. Little metal bit. And she is not a marquise. No, she's not. And she has her little finial here that was missing her bone ring. And she does have her hook here, and with a little bit of elastic still left, and that would hold her closed. There's actually one for sale on Etsy right now that's the exact replica of this, except it has lavender purple silk instead of the black. And it's only $750, but it's completely complete. So like it has the whole bit of the elastic, and it has a tassel at the end, and it has its bone ring, and yeah, I bought this one for $89. I'm not splurging again. I would love to have that one because it has the exact same handle and everything, which leads me to believe it's from the same manufacturer, and I would love to have 2 parasols from the same manufacturer in my collection. But alas, that is a lot of money, so I shall content myself with her, and she is lovely. If I could tat, I would gladly have a parasol with this cover, but yeah, can't tat. Not a skill set that I have. And that's okay. I have other skills. Let's come back to this one. This one is part of that lot of the English parasols. This one has a rosewood handle, little brass bits here, which is unusual. Usually it's all wood. And her brass here, and she has rosewood all the way up. She's of course missing her finial, like we talked about with all those other parasols. And let's see, these look more like cane ribs to me. Oh no. There's one that's a little bit broken out. Those are baleen. Alright, these are baleen too. And this lovely little bit at the end. That is, what, ½ an inch long and maybe a quarter, maybe 3/8 of an inch in diameter. This little bit, this is ivory. This thing, this little bit of ivory, it took me 4 months to get these parasols to the US from the UK because of this little bit right here. It was just, having to get paperwork for it, saying that I did not, murder an elephant to get this. This is antique. It's over 150 years old. Yeah, I didn't murder any elephants for it. It's been, it's a long dead elephant. But yeah, so she caused a lot of havoc, and so I feel like she should have a very, very special cover. And I had managed to find some gorgeous teal blue silk moire for, only $90 a yard. But I only need a yard of it for a parasol. But she also needs fringe, and the fringe usually match the cover. And so I won't buy the $90 a yard silk until I can find silk fringe that would match. So I guess I could make fringe from the fabric. I've done that before. I need to think on that. That might go into next month's budget. But yes, that is essentially her. And let's talk about parasol parts since we have one that's completely uncovered and complete. So these are upper ribs, and they are usually baleen or cane. And then by 1860 you see a lot more of the metal ones. These are under ribs or lower ribs, and they are usually metal. Even my 1830s one has metal. And then we have what I refer to often as a shaft, stick, or staff, and then what I refer to as the handle. Again, I don't use proper period parasol terms yet. That is a learning process. First I was learning how to date them, at least by decade, and then I was learning parasol use in Texas, because that's a passion of mine since I live in Texas, and I am tired of people telling me that we couldn't have nice things in Texas. Yes, we could. Over and over and over again, there are store ledgers and there are advertisements in newspapers. We could get anything we wanted here in Texas, so that is not a good excuse. We were not the wild middle of nowhere. So yes, so I've been trying to advocate for parasol use here in Texas, and trying to get more people on board with purchasing and restoring and using a parasol for their time period. This one is one of my favorites too. This one, I mean, just look at that. Beautiful, beautiful carved detail. I mean, just gorgeous. That's talent right there. I mean, I can't do anything similar to that. So that is just pure and utter talent. I need to get in there with a Q-tip and clean some of that dirt out, but that is just phenomenal, just gorgeous. And she is bone all the way up. She is a marquise as well. You see she wiggles, and look, you can actually see since she's uncovered. She came to me uncovered, by the way, how the little marquise detail works. And let's see if I can pull her this way so you can kind of see that as well. It's easier to see without a cover on them. And her ribs are baleen, and she has a broken finial, as typical in my collection. Her little metal sleeve there is quite pretty as well. It has little polka dots on it. I actually am about to recover her, so I actually do have fabric to recover her with. There's a rib here that needs a little bit of attention before I do so, but I have some beautiful bright crimson red silk with matching silk fringe to place on her, and so she's going to be quite something to look at with the handle and that beautiful fringe when I get around to it. So that is one of my next projects with her. And she does actually have bone rib tips. They're just in the other room in the closet in a baggie right now. So yes, that's how I will attach her handle. This next one is the last one from the lot I was telling you about. This one I have recovered completely. She came to me without a cover whatsoever, and there was no remnants of anything on her, so I couldn't tell what she would have been recovered in. So this is what I chose. I mean, it's good as anything. I didn't do a terrible job recovering her. I mean, it's not great, but it's not terrible. Her silk fringe I actually made from the fabric here, which is not ideal, but it worked, and it's silk fringe, so it worked. Her finial, she didn't have a finial whatsoever, so this one I made, it's just wood, and it's just an approximation until I can get a real bone finial on her. Basically, it's just to keep the fringe on, because if I don't have the finial there, the fringe will just pop off. And then she has a lovely light wood handle. In fact, the last two parasols I have to show you also have the exact same handle. And she's wood all the way up. And she is lined. Let's see, the next two are the only ones with metal ribs to them. And so the first one is actually very, very new to my collection. And I absolutely love her because I love blue. Look at that. Just look at that fabric. I bought her just because of her fabric, y'all. I really did. Just look how pretty it is. Oh, and it's a shot silk, so it's like this cream ivory with shot with the blue, and it just kind of gives off this beautiful, beautiful color. It has this black and white and that blue brocaded stripes to them, and it's just gorgeous. Oh, if I could find fabric like this, I'd have a dress out of it. I'd have a giant monstrosity of like the epitome of an 1850s dress. It would have ruffles and flounces. At the end of each flounce would be this lovely brocade here. It would have ruffles on it and probably fringe too. Oh my goodness, it would be beautiful. Alas, we cannot find anything remotely similar to this because it just doesn't exist anymore. Although there is a market for it. If anybody who does fabric printing wants to know how to make some money, there's a lot of people out there who would love to have fabric like this. I just don't know if we could be able to afford it once it's made, so that's something else. But it does have this little metal hook here. And her beautiful fringe. And she is not lined, which was unusual, I thought, because usually this late in the game, the parasols are usually lined. But yeah, she has all metal ribs. And again, the same handle we saw earlier. So pretty. That's essentially her. She has a slightly broken finial. There's missing just a little bit there, but it's not bad. It's honestly one of the better finials that I have. And then my last parasol I have to show you today. This one's been recovered, and I have her finial somewhere. I took her to an event, and her finial kept popping off for some reason. And usually it stays very well, but this particular day it was not staying on. I was afraid I was going to lose it, and so I put it in a very safe place. So safe that 4 months later I have not been able to find it. But it was an event that I drove to, and when I'm able to drive to an event instead of fly, I tend to bring everything. And so I had my hair box, I had a box, I probably had 3 boxes of stuff in my carpet bag, and a linen travel bag, in my hairnet bag, and probably some other things too, just full of stuff. And so it's somewhere in all that. Like, I haven't really looked through like my jewelry box yet. I haven't really looked through the box of my hair stuff yet. And so I'm sure it's all in there somewhere. I just haven't looked in the right spot yet. And every time I go through things, I'm like, I need to keep looking for that finial. It could also be with my gloves, because I also had a separate thing for gloves. But yes, so she has been recovered. Let's see. Her fringe is original, so I used her original fringe on her when I recovered her. And then her original fabric is this. So it is a lovely olive green silk brocade, just absolutely beautiful, beautiful fabric. But it was quite sad looking. This is the only one that wasn't shredded, and I used this for the pattern piece. And then, I don't know, a cat maybe have gotten to it in the last 160 years because it smelled like cat pee, and it looked like a mouse had nested in it, and it was in pretty poor shape, so I ended up recovering her. I didn't do a terrible job, but you can definitely see up in here. This is my weak spot right here. I can usually get it to fit from here to here really well, and then from here to here, not so much. But the fringe covers most of it, so it's going to be okay, and it functions fairly decently. You can see her exact finial that we saw earlier. And yeah, we can't find silk brocade like this anymore either. Otherwise I would have recovered her in that, but a stripe will work just as well. You can tell stripes did happen, so, you know, that was what I had to deal with. But yes, so that is basically the last 1850s parasol I have to show you today. I hope you learned something about 1850s parasols. I hope to also include some videos on 1860s parasols, and maybe do one for the 1830s and 1840s. I only have one 1830s parasol, so that would be a very boring video with just the one parasol, so I think I ought to do that one with the 1840s. And really my knowledge really stops around 1865, and so although I have a few later parasols, I probably won't do videos on those just because I don't have the knowledge base to feel confident in what I'm talking about. I barely have enough to do these type of things, but with this time period, which I know this time period fairly well. But yes, I really do hope you learned something, and thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you back at another parasol video. Thank you so much.